Hey there. I've been feeling a nudge to pivot slightly and create a vulnerable video about where I'm at on my spiritual journey and in life in general. I trust that my authenticity will draw the right people who are meant to stay, and I'm choosing to keep going. Maybe the divine wants to document a transformation in real time. I'm in a pretty messy middle that at times I'm not convinced I'll survive, and that's okay. And if by some miracle I do make it out on top, it will be epic to see how far I've come from here. And if I don't, then it becomes a profound testament of what not to do. I'm here to show that I'm still climbing the mountain, tired, my hands a bit metaphorically bloody, but I'm still here, even if I can't see where I'm going. Summer of 2019 is when everything began to shift for me. 2019 was one of the best years of my life, and I had come so far with having a community in Austin and getting more hugs by everyone I worked with and just feeling like something healed in me, and I was feeling more nourished than ever before. I started to get this premonition that I was about to meet a life partner, and then I got a random invite to London, all expenses paid, which is a miracle dream come true. I had always wanted to go, and I had always been fascinated with British culture ever since I was a young child. But I forgot about that dream since I was raw vegan at the time and wanted nothing more than to just be on tropical islands in the sun. I had been single and celibate for the past 2 years, healing from a pretty significant breakup. However, I remembered that I had declared when I was 15 years old that I was going to marry a British man and didn't even know how. But I sensed it as a signpost in my bones, seeping through my pores. It was my destiny. And this opportunity awakened a glimmer of remembrance, a glimmer of hope. Ooh, what if I could meet someone there? Since I had often joked that my standards would be significantly lower for anything with a British accent, as twisted as that is to admit. But then I thought, nah, 2 months is not really enough time to meet someone, so I won't get my hopes up too much. And little did I know, the next 6 years of my life were about to unravel everything I thought that I knew. And I mean everything. I actually never even wanted to get married or ever have children, but the biological hormone shift that happens at age 30 is something that no one could have prepared me for. Long story short, I met my dream guy in London one Sunday morning. We fell hard and fast. He was a royal manifestation of 3 whole pages of qualities I had journaled about. Not only exquisitely British, but the most beautiful model of a man that's ever shown interest in me. We will call him Bumblebee for now. And I thought I had won the spiritual lottery. Before meeting him, I had been journaling word spells and feeling some sort of strong prophetic conviction in my spirit that I was about to meet my life partner, soulmate, twin flame, etc., with a delusional level of confidence. I wasn't clear on what all those words meant at the time, and I must insert a caveat here that I have since learned the words twin flame need to be deleted from your vocabulary. If you've ever heard it, it's not something that you want to come into agreement with. The energy signature behind the term turned out to be destabilizing and unhealthy, and basically declares that you're separate from the whole and something is missing from your soul, which is not true. I had also heard twin flames can sometimes turn into a soulmate, so I wasn't really hung up on labels. I just knew that our connection had to be sent from God. It was transcendental, telepathic, and unlike anything I could have imagined into existence. Whatever my concept of God was at the time, I thought I had an agreement that I wouldn't even be able to fall for someone unless they were permanent this time. I couldn't survive any more heartbreaks. My prayer was that the next one would be it, the one. And since he awakened such primal desires to have his children and be married to him, I thought surely this was from God. He vastly exceeded all of my previous expectations. We both met in a fasted, celibate state, and later on I had seen other people's testimonies of when God writes your love story, and they met after a fast, and they also had all these signs and synchronicities as well. And so I thought, how was that not from God? I had been in significant love before, but always deep down felt it was temporary. This was far from temporary, and I was prepared to devote every fiber of my being to this man. And one moment he looked me dead in the eyes and said to me, "This is forever." So I thought that was confirmation from the divine. After all, it's not like we're naive 15-year-old kids. This was a grown man telling me this, so I desperately wanted to believe that there was truth to it. I came home from that experience feeling so free and so loved because I was no longer searching for anything. I thought I found my destiny. I finally found my person, so that I was free to just love others and just connect and not be constantly searching like, where's my husband? And then 2020 shook things up, and I honestly haven't slept through the night since then. The pandemic broke my trust in reality and everything and everyone, and I spiraled into the deepest, darkest depression that I'd ever known. I lost my hugs at work, the uncertainty of not knowing when or if I would ever be able to see Bumblebee again, and I had struggled with not wanting to exist in the past most of my life, to be honest. And yet I thought I had healed this part of me and hadn't had thoughts like that in years. I had done fasting and read enough spiritual books, and even though I was going through one of the hardest breakups, I had thought that I had healed past those kinds of thoughts. And I thought I knew what it was like to have suicidal ideation thoughts and collapse and want to give up before, but nothing compared to this season in 2020. And yet I'm still here. I'm saying this now from a place of survival, not collapse. He shared with me recently that this chapter of mine is largely what pushed him away and changed his view of me, which I have compassion for. After all, who would want someone so fragile and risky who doesn't appreciate life? So that's been a tough pill to swallow. Even though it did hurt that he gave up on me and I felt left for dead and no longer belonged to a tribe. But so a couple years ago, I got really into watching Jesus testimonies, especially from New Age, and I wanted my own testimony. I thought clearly nothing I learned in the New Age was working because no matter what I do or try, all I can think about is death. And if I can't have my man, I didn't need to be here. And I felt so betrayed, not by him, but by life itself. And so I did give Christianity my best attempt, since people kept coming into my life and telling me how their lives have changed and praying for me, but it never seemed completed. I never actually found or encountered what people call Jesus. I didn't receive the healing miracle that I saw in others. I read the whole Bible, I went to several churches, cried, repented, and prayed my absolute heart out and gave it my best shot and got temporary glimpses, but nothing that lasted. And I still just felt so empty and so dark and so confused. Something just didn't click for me in ways that I desperately needed. I didn't know back then that sometimes faith isn't an instant rescue. It's a slow unraveling of the inner world. But I thought maybe I needed deliverance from darkness. I had watched several powerful podcasts of others' experiences with it and sought out a deliverance ministry. And they basically told me that there was too much darkness surrounding me and that I needed to heal first. And they weren't able to do anything for me. And I left in tears, thinking that I was beyond saving. This year, 2025, has been one of the hardest. Honestly, the last few have all felt pretty challenging, but this year was a real breaking point. Back in March, my lower back inflamed with a mystery illness to the point of not being able to walk right for at least 2 months. I was walking at like a 45-degree angle and couldn't stand up straight. And I quit my job. And I eat exceptionally high quality and 100% organic and didn't do anything different. I was working out, but I didn't experience anything that would have been an injury. And it just felt really unjustified, other than the fact that I was living in Texas allergy season and a room of mold and water damage in my room. And so if you know, you know. I'm grateful that Chris Williamson has shared some of his health journey on this, and it really made me feel less alone and not crazy. So I spent a bunch of money on physical therapy and acupuncture and eventually got back to normal, thankfully, and back to deadlift personal records, which I'm grateful for because you never know what the state of your health could do, you know? And so I had quit my job knowing that I had another job lined up that initially promised more stability and more money. And I kept waiting for it to open, holding out. And it ended up being a complete and royal flop. And I was only getting 2 days a week if I was lucky. And the startup sales were struggling and not where they needed to be. And so I burned through my savings for a future that never arrived, which I take responsibility for and shouldn't have put all my eggs in one basket, but it still hurts. And also this year, after 6 whole years of remaining in contact with the British guy, who I held on to for dear life, thinking that he was still my life partner in some capacity, I continually abandoned myself to try to remain his friend. And he started seeing someone romantically, and it was officially very clear that I was finally replaced after all this time. And the romance we shared maybe wasn't what I thought. After 6 years of being told, I love you, after every phone call, suddenly the love just dissolved and disappeared. And once upon a time being told this is forever, now that promise is a ghost that we quietly shove under the rug. A moment I never wanted to face or bear. Like I couldn't even entertain the idea that we didn't have a future chance eventually. And if I'm honest, I still struggle with holding on to the possibility of redemption. Hope is as addictive as heroin, I've heard. And I didn't think it was truly possible to let him go, since I thought our connection was special, eternal, despite praying for him to find a wife and be happy in case we really weren't meant to be. But the most painful part was that he mentioned that he views this girl as temporary, doesn't see her as his wife or the mother of his children. But who really knows at this point, right? And so there's been a lot of processing and grief around holding on for so long and spending the last years of my biological clock in a fantasy. And the past 6 years unraveled all of my childhood wounds and being gaslit by the universe that no, actually what you experienced wasn't special or divine at all. It was just a trauma bond, just limerence, just the devil, so common that every season of Love Island reflects the same thing over and over. And I just couldn't believe that I thought what we had was so unique, and it turns out it was pretty common. I can't fully explain why he's still so attuned to me and why we stayed in contact for so long. That's a whole other rabbit hole for another time. But I promise I'm going somewhere with this. So the last few months I had been learning about the teachings of Neville Goddard, that reality is us pushed out, and that my reality is simply reflecting past beliefs and feelings and mirroring my nervous system, which made a little bit more sense to me and gave me more agency. And I had to face the tough pill to swallow that my beliefs, thoughts, and feelings were in fact holding me back, whether they were about Jesus or not. And that was something I could recognize. And that even the people who were transformed by Jesus had to use their imagination pretty creatively to believe that they are loved by an ethereal man they can't see. And that very unfortunately, I was perhaps participating in a timeline of betrayal and rejection of my own choosing, despite not knowing any better. I was in a negative spiral of feeling perpetually unsafe in my body and just kept getting more of that. As I became more aware and more intentional, I got glimpses of shifting my state subtly, slowly, here and there, and got more glimpses of faith that were in my control, and that maybe, just maybe, if I can master my mind and my feelings and choose good feeling visions in my imagination, that my life could change. And I've heard and seen other people achieve nice things, so why not me? And David Bayer declared that he wanted to marry a Colombian woman, and he did 2 weeks later. Prince Harry wrote a list that he said was Meghan Markle and got to marry her. David Beckham saw his wife on TV and declared that he was going to marry her. So why was it that I could not have my British fairy tale? It turns out that it's very likely my belief in myself due to childhood traumas. And so 2025, the ache of having to reckon with the fact that he gets to frolic and share love and affection with someone new, perhaps equal to or more special and beautiful than I was, and imagining her under the same spell that I know all too well. The ache of watching someone else getting more time with him, while I'm currently here watching a 91-year-old lady decline, who also doesn't want to be here anymore, and who just lost her husband of over 71 years, and being woken up at 1 a.m. to clean up literal poop, and wishing that I could give up again. Thinking, wow, how is this fair? How did I get here? But you can kind of see how this is the perfect mirror to my nervous system, right? A perfect mirror to victim consciousness. Ouch, right? And I've always recognized that this whole shadow was never about this specific man specifically. I could never be mad at him or blame him for anything this time, because I knew the moment that I met him, the moment I saw him, this could hurt, but I'm consciously choosing to take the risk this time, and only time will tell. And I can't play the victim this time. And my triggers were tied to my father, to my early abandonment wounds, to societal conditioning, to Disney propaganda even. And I was more hung up on the principle of how am I supposed to continue to live in a world where what I thought was the purest, truest, unconditional love was possible to die like that. How could something so light and beautiful turn so dark and ugly? If I seemed a bit jaded in my previous videos, this has been why, and I'm still climbing out of the pit. And so, yet I'm still here, and I haven't given up. I will find my spark again soon, and I can almost taste it. Something I'm continuing to realize is that my love didn't actually die. It's okay for the pattern to die, for the part of me that needed his validation to die, for the attachment to die, but love and honor still remains in my heart, and it always will, and no one can take that from me. A newfound faith is attempting to glimmer where I truly want to trust what is meant for both of us, even if I still stumble sometimes. I tell myself I'm just experiencing a false sense of separation, but I'm not separate from my desires. There was a David Bayer video recently saying that we can decide on a new reality right here, right now. The present moment is a blank slate, and we also have the power to influence those around us based on our beliefs and perceptions of them. Our memories of the past aren't fixed. They're actually like a Google document that we can edit every time we think of a memory. We know nothing of the past or the future, only what we interpret and only what we choose to focus on, right here, right now. Ignore the present, which is just a reflection of the past made crystallized, and we can choose to believe right here, right now, that we have $1 million purpose. We can decide that our dream partner still exists for us. In the fourth dimension, we are not separate from our desires. and I'm doing my best to honor these principles. And someone said, divine intelligence wouldn't keep me where I don't belong. The divine infinite intelligence that still breathes my lungs and still beats my heart is doing so for a reason. Sometimes I don't know if that's fully true, but I keep deciding that at a minimum it is possible. And so I'm not out of the woods yet, and you're witnessing the raw truth here first. And I really want to thank anyone who has made it this far. Please comment a purple heart if you have watched up until this point. But if you pray, I certainly welcome prayers. I believe in prayers. And if you take anything away from this, I would emphasize, don't have casual sex for the sake of escapism. We as a collective are also so starved of touch that sometimes we get so addicted to the first person that comes along simply because we need a minimum of 8 hugs a day as a basic human need. And so get more hugs from friends so you're not starving for breadcrumbs from anyone. I saw a TikTok saying to get a weighted blanket and hum more to stimulate your vagus nerve and regulate your nervous system and create your own oxytocin. And reality reflects a regulated nervous system. And so I found also compression therapy is actually quite comforting and something I had no idea that I needed. And seek support because we are meant to be in a tribe. We are not meant to carry grief alone. Grief needs to be witnessed in order to be processed. And I've been doing my best to be better about this. When I'm spiraling, I try to reach out to someone instead of crying alone because that's what keeps people stuck. And the gym is also one thing that keeps me going. I would like to share more gym content in the future, maybe how I healed my back and stuff. But if I can go to the gym 3 times a week, anyone can, because there are days when I can't even get out of bed. And so if you're in your own dark chapter, I just want you to know that all of you is welcome here. If you've ever had parts of you that want to give up and that still experience separation and lack, you're not alone, and you deserve support instead of being cast out of the tribe. I'm learning that even when the story isn't finished, we still get to keep turning the pages, and maybe we walk each other out of the woods. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching, and this video proves that I'm still here, still doing my best. So share it with someone who needs to hear it, and thank you for being here. Bless you.